Welcome back to the Chad Hasty Show on News Talk 95.1 FM and 790 AM KFYO. Thank you for tuning in today. So much to get into the rest of the program. And, of course, a lot of eyes have been focusing on what's been happening in Washington, D.C. with the confirmation hearings of Amy Coney Barrett. And so far, I think they've gone pretty well. And joining us on the phones to talk about those, the senior senator from the great state of Texas. Always a pleasure to visit with our next guest, Senator John Cornyn. Good morning. How are you today?
Good morning, Chad. I'm doing great. Glad to be with you, and I agree. I think the judge has done a great job.
You know, she has. Yesterday, we visited on the show with a former law student of hers who told kind of, a little bit of, of a story for just her biography and who she is outside of the classroom and outside of a courtroom, and just about her graciousness and about how personable she is. And honestly, Senator, a lot of that comes across in the hearings.
Absolutely. She's just a normal person. A normal person with a big brain.
Yeah, very smart.
And incredible talent and experience. But it's nice to have somebody who's a mom and a wife, and in addition to being an outstanding professional. And, of course, like you said, Chad, her personal story is remarkable. She and her husband, of course, adopted two children from Haiti, and one of their children is special needs, has Down syndrome. So this is a family that's seen the best and the most challenging aspects of life, and it's the kind of person and the kind of experience you'd want from somebody sitting on the court.
Help me out with something. I've been trying to watch as much of the hearings as possible, and I thought I caught a part yesterday when Judge Barrett was discussing her family, and she said that her children had gotten upset during the hearings. One of her children, she mentioned by name, I can't remember which one, but was upset by some of the accusations made to her or against her by some of my Democratic colleagues. And so and politics is tough. You got to have a thick skin, but in my experience, your family is the one that really feels it the most. And I'm sure the judge, who knew what she was getting into, that her family is feeling the pain, the slings and arrows more than she does. But unfortunately, that's part of the process. This has been different than the Kavanaugh hearings. For those who have not been watching, how would you compare these hearings to the Kavanaugh hearings, and how? Just to completely put it out there, how the Democrats have been acting.
Well, it's like night and day. But I think one of the biggest, there's two things, I think, Chad. One is the fact that we don't have anyone in the audience other than just family and a small number of staff. And that's basically because of COVID-19 restrictions. We're doing this in accordance with the Center for Disease Control guidelines as well as the attending physician. So there's a lot of space and not a lot of people. But the members of the committee are there by and large, except for Kamala Harris and Pat Leahy, who are dialing in, which is fine. That's part of the way we set it up. But, this is also a far cry from her hearing 3 years ago where she was asked whether she was an Orthodox Catholic by Senator Dick Durbin, and Senator Feinstein expressed the concern that as she said it, the dogma lives loudly within you. In other words, her religious faith, suggesting that somehow disqualified her from being a judge. It was really outrageous, and I think they've experienced a lot of backlash, and that's why they're treading more carefully now.
So what for those who don't know, we're recording this a little bit before the show because during the show you're actually going to be working. You're going to be back into the hearing room, correct? What happens today?
Well, we're through with the judge's testimony. Now we'll hear from the American Bar Association, and each side will have a chance to present, I think, 4 witnesses, and people who know her, people who have opinions about her work, and I think you'll hear pro and con, which is typical in these hearings. But I think the judge is on a trajectory to be confirmed. We'll vote her out of committee by October the 22nd, and then we'll have an up or down vote on the Senate floor a few days after that.
What's the delay? Is it a normal delay between now and the 22nd, or for a lot of the listeners are like, we love her, let's just go today.
Committee rules, there's usually a 1 week holdover. It's customary, so it's really nothing unusual. But for those who say we're somehow rushing the hearing, I think this is designed to demonstrate that no, we're doing this just like we do all the others.
So let's say let's go to the 22nd when the vote at a committee is supposed to happen. There have been all these rumors that the Democrats, could break quorum, they could leave. What could happen? And I know you and I've discussed this before, but what could happen to slow the process down?
Well, we figured this out. We've figured out if they do this, then what do we do? And I think we've got a game plan. They could not agree not to supply a quorum. We could deal with that by having a vote to change the precedent that by which these nominations are considered. There's a number of technical things they could do, but even they acknowledge they could slow this down for a few hours, maybe a day, but they can't stop it.
Visiting with Senator John Cornyn here on the Chad Hasty Show, and I know you have to get going pretty soon. You have to be in the hearing room. I'll ask you this: what do you think a Judge Barrett means, a Justice Barrett means, not only right now for the U.S. Supreme Court, but for years to come?
Well, she is what I would consider to be a traditional judge. In other words, she doesn't view her job as making pronouncements or making policy from the bench. That's a far cry from Justice Ginsburg, who even has written in a law review article that maybe the court overstepped when they preempted all state laws immediately in Roe versus Wade. But I think you'll see somebody who's very careful, who's very diligent, and who judges each case on the merits and understands the difference between the Congress and the judiciary and the very different roles they play.
Senator, before I let you go, I do want to ask you a couple of 2020 election overall questions. We keep seeing a lot of buzz out there that Democrats are crushing Republicans when it comes to money. How is your campaign looking? I'm not sure if y'all have released the Q3 numbers yet or not, but how's your campaign looking? And then overall, just how are Republicans looking in the money game?
Well, the money game has changed dramatically, Chad, and most of it comes from out of state. That was true in Beto O'Rourke's race against Ted Cruz. About 60% of the money came from out of state. In my case, my opponents being bankrolled by Chuck Schumer and the Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee, basically people from California and New York funding her race, trying to turn us into California or New York, which obviously would really kill the goose that laid the golden egg. Texas still is the number one job creator in the country. She wants to impose a carbon tax on oil and gas and kill that industry, and she's embraced all the radical ideas that literally would turn Texas into something you and I would not recognize. So it is real. The amount of money is just mind-blowing, but it takes more than money. It takes ideas and a good campaign to beat all that money. But we're doing the best we can. But the most important thing is for you and all your listeners to get out and cast your ballot. Absolutely.
I may have missed it. Has your campaign released numbers yet for Q3?
We have not. We'll do that on the. We'll do that today, I think.
Okay.
And I can't remember exactly what the numbers are, but she roughly outraised us 2-1.
Okay.
In the third quarter.
All right. Senator Cornyn, appreciate your time. Let's visit again before the election and kind of get a wrap on not only the Supreme Court, but also, talk about the election once more.
You bet, Chad. Thanks
a
lot.
Thank you. That's U.S. Senator John Cornyn here on the Chad Hasty Show, News Talk, KFYO.